Good morning. Good morning. I just wanted to talk to you in chapter 8. We're still, moving towards the 21 indispensable qualities of a leader, becoming the person others will want to follow. And so I wanted to just share with you again, coming from John C. Maxwell. And this one, chapter 8, is on focus. A lot of times we get unfocused because there are so many distractions going on in the world today, even in our own personal lives. But the distractions that we have right now has affected a lot of us, our families personally, through the loss of a loved one because of COVID, and not just COVID, but there's other things that have affected our loved ones to where they have succumbed, and they're no longer here with us. Maybe in spirit they are, but not in physical presence. And so, losing a job or financial situations, or your children going through things, and babies are still being born in this pandemic. And, what happened in Washington, D.C. at the grounds of the Capitol, and all of the hate and evil and destructions and things like that, and the violence that's going on and have been going on. So, our focus can be taken away from us in a way that can harm us, or it can, set us back when we lose focus. Like if we're driving and we're not paying attention and we have a bad accident, or someone runs into us because they're not paying attention, so we're talking about focus. And the sharper it is, the sharper you are. So the sharper your focus is, the sharper you are. And so this is unknown, and it's saying, the author is unknown, and it says, if you chase two rabbits, both will escape. Because if you're chasing two rabbits, they both can get away, because you can't chase two. You got to focus in on one. So if you got two rabbits, you need to focus in on one. Because if you focus on both of them, they'll get away. You won't be able to give too much attention to both of them at the same time. But if you focus on one, you're liable to catch that one rabbit instead of focusing on two. Because again, focusing on two, usually it'll get away from you. And then Margaret Mead is an anthropologist, and she says, what people say, what people do, and what they say they do are entirely different things. And that's so true. You can talk all day long about what you say and what you say you're going to do. But unless you put the actions, those words into actions, then they're just mere words that people are hearing. And so we got to have a different mindset, something called a different kind of one-track mind. And so let's talk about fleshing it out. What does it take? What does it take to have focus required to a truly effective leader? The keys are priorities and concentration. So we got to concentrate, and we got to have priorities. A leader who knows his priorities but lacks concentration knows what to do, but never gets it done. If he has concentration but no priorities, he has excellence without progress. And most of us want excellence with progress, because we want to be able to show our excellent skills and how we made progress with those excellent skills. But when it harnesses both, he has the potential to achieve great things. And so Maxwell says, I frequently meet people in leadership positions who seem to major in minor things. So my question is, how many of you are majoring in the minors, in minor things? That doesn't just make sense. It would be the equivalent of Tony Gwynn spending all his time studying base stealing. Now, Gwynn can steal bases. And if you remember who Tony Gwynn was, he's this, prominent, this famous baseball player. But he has stolen more than 300 in his career. But it's not his strength. And dedicating all his time to that instead of hitting would be a waste of his time and talent. So the important question is, how should you focus your time and energy? So he gives us some guidelines to follow. Number one, focus 70% on strengths, 70% on your strengths. Effective leaders who reach their potential spend more time focusing on what they do well than on what they do wrong. And that's the thing. We have to focus on what we do well And even with other people, even if it's being on a team or leading other people, focus on their strengths and what they do well. Don't focus on their weaknesses and what they do wrong, but see the good and focus on what they do well and their strengths and see the best in them. Focus on the best in them, not on the worst in them. Focus on what's the good, and not in the bad. Leadership expert Peter Drucker, he notes, the great mystery isn't that people do things badly, but that they occasionally do a few things well. See, the only thing that is universal is incompetence. That's a universal thing, incompetence. It's not just in one area, of a community or a city or one state. It's universal. Incompetence is universal. You can go anywhere and find incompetence. But strength is always specific. It's specific. Nobody ever commented, for example, that the great violinist Jascha Heifetz probably couldn't play the trumpet very well. To be successful, focus on your strengths and develop them. That's where you should pour your time, energy, and resources, in your strengths, and develop what you're good at. And then number 2, focus 25% on new things. Growth equals change. And if you want to get better, you have to keep improving and changing. So keep changing and improving. That means stepping out into new areas. Because Gwen modeled that several years ago after he had a conversation with Ted Williams. The old pro suggested that learning to hit inside pitches would make Gwen a better player. Gwen, who preferred outside balls, worked on it, and his average went up significantly. If you dedicate time to new things related to areas of strength, then you'll grow as a leader. And that's important. You got to dedicate time to areas of your strength to grow as a leader. And don't forget, in leadership, if you're through growing, then you're through. See, you can never stop growing as a leader. You can never stop growing if you're in a leadership position. If you're in leadership, you always have to grow. Because once you determine that there's no more growth for you and that you don't grow anymore, then you're through. There's nothing else for you. It's nothing else for you. So always keep growing. You got to keep growing to keep going. Because if you stop growing, then you can't go. You will stop going when you stop growing. And then number 3, focus 5% on areas of weakness. So that's just like if you have an employee that has issues and they keep throwing distractions up and they're negative, they're not positive, and they don't want to grow. Don't give them 70% of your time. Give them as little time as possible. Spend time on your staff, on employees, spend time on people that want to grow, that want to succeed, that want to learn, that want to be better. Focus on their strengths. And the person that's acting up, spend very little time with them. Don't waste your time. And that's why I'm saying focus 5% on areas of weakness. So if that employee is just weak and they're not contributing like they should, don't spend time with them like that. Give them 5%. Tell them what you need to tell them. This is what's expected, and move on. Because either they'll get it, they'll either sink or swim. So nobody can entirely avoid working in areas of weakness. The key is to minimize it as much as possible. And leaders can do it by delegating. For example, I delegate detailed work to others. A team of people at the Enjoy group handles all the logistics of my conferences. That way, when I'm there, I stick to the things I do best, such as the actual speaking. And this is coming from John Maxwell. And then we got to reflect on it. Let's do some reflecting. How would you rate yourself overall in the area of focus? That's something that you can answer yourself and maybe even write it down on paper. Have you been majoring in minor things? Ask yourself that. Do I major in minor things? Do I always worry about the small things, the minute things that's not going to get me anywhere, that's not going to move me forward, That's not going to help me to grow. And have you spent so much time shoring up your weaknesses that you're afraid to build up your strengths? See, because we all have weaknesses. And we get in a habit, sometime in a bad habit. And I'm sure all of us have done it, especially in leadership, where we want to grow. And we've spent more time focusing on our weaknesses and what's bad. And I can't make it. And I don't do this well. And I don't do that well. But how many times have you focused on your strengths and what you do well? Does that outweigh focusing on weaknesses? Or do your strengths outweigh, or does your weaknesses outweigh focusing on your strengths, or does your strengths outweigh focusing on your weaknesses? And then, do the people with the least potential monopolize your time? See, that's what I was just saying earlier. If they're if the people on your team are monopolizing your time, the ones that are weak, that are not willing to contribute, that are not doing the best for the team, with the least potential, are they monopolizing your time? Because if they are, then you've lost focus. Because again, you want to spend time on strengths, not on weaknesses. And you want to spend time with people that are growing, that want to learn, that are moving towards the goal. Not on someone that's not wanting to learn, that's a disruption, distraction, not willing to grow. You don't want to spend your time on those type of people. But you can pray for them. You can pray for them. And keep good thoughts. And be positive. But move forward. And to get back on track with your focus, these are some things, to do. Work on yourself. You are your greatest asset or detriment. So which one you want to be, an asset or a detriment? I'm sure everybody's heard the word detrimental, and that some things are detrimental to our health, detrimental to our families, detrimental to ourselves. So work on yourself and make sure that you are your greatest asset, not detriment. And then work at your priorities. Sure, you'll have to fight for those priorities, because sometimes we get distracted and there's other things to come up and we push our priorities back, and then other stuff become our priorities. And we definitely don't want to make our weakness or someone else's weakness our priority. So we got to get back focused on our priorities and work in your strengths. You can reach your potential. And work with your contemporaries, because you can't be effective alone. You can't be effective alone. A team is 2 or more people. You can't be a team by yourself. And then bringing it home. To improve your focus, you can do the following. And this is what we can do. We can shift to our strengths. We can make a list of 3 or 4 things that we do well in our job. And it doesn't matter if you have a paid job or a volunteer job, or you are a stay-at-home mother or stay-at-home father or parent, however you want to see it. But make a list of 3 or 4 things that you do well in your job. What percentage of your time do you spend doing them? And what percentage of your resources is dedicated to those areas of strength? Devise a plan to make changes and allow you to dedicate 70% of your time to your strengths. So after you make that plan, you need to dedicate 70% of your time to your strengths And if you can't, it may be time to reassess your career or your job or whatever it is that you're doing. It may be time to reassess. And every now and then we do need to reassess and reevaluate where we're at in our strengths and weaknesses, but focusing on the strengths, because because many times people, they may be able to see, people that's close to you, your weaknesses, but most people, if you're strong and they see you focused and mastered and they see your strengths, they don't even really know what your weaknesses are. The only people that may know that are the people that's close to you. And then staff your weaknesses. Identify 3 or 4 activities necessary for your job that you don't do well. Because there's always going to be someone on your team. If you have a great team and you're a great leader or a good leader and you have a great team, a good team, guess what? There are going to be people on your team that are going to be able to do things better than you. And if we are a leader that's confident in the position we serve, we won't have a problem with the people on our team that do something very well and better than we do as the leader. Because no one is perfect and no one knows everything, including leadership, including you as a leader. Because I know me as a leader, I don't do everything perfect or well. So therefore, to have great people on your team that you can delegate duties and jobs to and give them things to do that they do well at helps the whole team shine. And will it require hiring staff? Think about that. Or can you partner with a coworker to share responsibilities? Or partner with your spouse or your best friend or someone that you can trust, a confidant or a colleague, and develop a plan. And then create an edge. Create an edge. Now that you've looked at priorities, think about concentration. What would it take for you to go to the next level in your main area of strength? Think about it. Write it down. Ponder over it. Pray over it. And what new tools do you need? Is there any new tools that you need? Or maybe you need an attitude adjustment. Or maybe you need to reassess, refocus. Or maybe you need to change some people that's on the team. And maybe you need to see what your team is doing and what their strengths and weaknesses are. And maybe you need to change your team around and put them in places that they weren't in before. And take time and, rethink how do you do things and be willing to make sacrifices. How many of you are willing to make sacrifices for the big picture? See, because when we make sacrifices, it should include the big picture, not the little small picture, but the big picture. And time and money spent to take you to the next level are the best investment you can make. And it may not even be a lot of money that you have to invest depending on your goals, depending on what you're doing. Might not even need a lot of investment, not of money. The investment may just need your time, your focus, your concentration, your dedication, and your strengths. That's investment too. And it doesn't always have to be monetary. And then daily takeaway. Let's talk about this daily takeaway. So John Maxwell says experienced animal trainers take a stool with them when they step into a cage with a lion. Why a stool? Well, I'm glad you asked. It tames a lion better than anything, except maybe a tranquilizer gun. When the trainer holds the stool with the legs extended toward the lion's face, the animal tries to focus on all 4 legs at once, and that paralyzes him. Divided focus always works against you. And that's what earlier talking about chasing 2 rabbits. You will not be able to catch 2 rabbits, but if you focus on one, you might be able to catch that 1 rabbit. And so divided focus always works against you. See, when your focus is divided, it's going to work against you. But when you focus in on one thing or those strengths, it can work for you. And this is actually coming from chapter 8. As I said, that we're going to get to that 21 indispensable qualities of a leader. Becoming the person that others want to follow. And you have to ask yourself, after each video that you view, are you the person, are you becoming the person that others want to follow? Because we're in chapter 8, and now we're going to be doing chapter 9 next. I'll be bringing a video again from John C. Maxwell, the 21 indispensable qualities of a leader. And so take the time to reassess, reevaluate, and ask yourself, am I becoming the person that others want to follow? And this is now your 8th video. And what are your takeaways? What are your takeaways from all of these videos? What are your takeaways? In everything so far that you've watched, that you've listened to, what are your takeaways? And if you want to go out and purchase the book, the ISBN number, you can probably look it up on Amazon, maybe Barnes & Noble, pretty much any bookstore, Abe's Books, whatever website that you choose to go to. But it is called, again, the 21 Indispensable Qualities of a Leader, becoming the person that others want to follow. And so the ISBN, there's 2 here. One of them is 10, and that's probably maybe an ebook. I'm not really sure, but I'll give it to you anyway. ISBN-10, 10, then colon, 0-7852-7440-5. And then the ISBN number book, 13, and then, colon 978-0-7852-7440-7. And that's more than likely if you're going to purchase the book. And this one may have a workbook. I have to look it up because I have tons of books, and I have another book I want to come with too about leadership that I'll be talking about. Like I said, in this year, throughout this year, I will be focusing on, talking about leadership and how we can be better as a person, how we can be good followers. And because in order to be a good leader, you have had to learn how to become a good follower. And so, it's just getting to the heart of the leadership issues, getting straight to the heart of leadership issues. And so, I do read a lot of books on John C. Maxwell, but I read a lot of books, as you all that's followed me knows that. And so today, because I have, some assignments I had to get done, and I still want to get my workout in, focusing on my strengths. And my strengths too are to get out and run. I used to be a sprinter. Just to share a little about my love for running. I used to be a sprinter, and I ran the 100-yard dash, the 50-yard dash, which is now called meters, but it was the 50, the 100. I ran the 220, the 220 relay, the 440 relay. I ran the 5 and 10 hurdles. And also, I used to do a long jump. I was such a tomboy at heart growing up, and I still love sports. I played basketball, although I wasn't as good in basketball as I was in track, but I love basketball. That was the heart of my love, is just loving basketball. And I even played volleyball. I love playing volleyball, very competitive. I would I even played soccer in high school, and I was a cheerleader at one time. I've done a lot when it comes to sports because I love sports, but I come from a family of 7 brothers, no sisters, so I was a straight tomboy at heart. But I still learned how to sew, cook, clean, and do all those things that a young woman needs to know how to do to be a better person and a better woman. And the reason why I bring these videos, is because I think it's important that we set examples for the younger generation. And as far as myself, I feel that I can be a good example for young women growing up. And I just pray that my videos get shared and someone that's younger than me comes by and they can get something from my videos. I think we can all learn from each other when it comes down to being on social media. But I think it's important for us to be positive and to show kindness and love one another. And all the, the negativism that people are displaying, that's not fair and just. And so I can't, when it comes to being fair and just, unless we are fair and just within ourselves at the micro level, then you are not fair and just. And so it's just a facade for whatever you might think. But if you really learn about being fair and just and learn about what it is for justice, and even go back and read in the biblical days and what things happen, and to really get to down to the nitty gritty and the root of the problem, or what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and learn about it, learn what's important, learn about it, dig deep in there. And I guarantee you that you'll start to see some transformations within yourself and with others around you, like your children, like your family. But first, it starts with the micro level. That's so important. And so even though, there's a lot of negativism going on, and there's a lot of people blaming and accusing other people of doing this and doing that, and they're not willing to take responsibility for their actions, we got to go deep and we got to look within. But with that being said, even as ourselves, if we focus on the positive and focus on strength, we can move forward, because as long as you are growing, you can keep moving. But when you stop growing, then you no longer can do anything. You are done. You are through when you stop growing. So we always want to be someone that's a learner. We always should be, excited about learning, and able to be teachable. Am I teachable? That's another important thing. But just knowing that, being able to be that example, and that positive example, and that beacon for Christ, and letting your light shine, and letting people know that you really have integrity. You're not just putting on a facade because you're on social media, but you truly have integrity. And that people that don't even, people that know you outside of social media, can they say, yes, I know this person? They operate with integrity. They operate in truth and honesty. They operate the way that I would want to set an example for others. And that's important. That's truly important. And I know that this is kind of a longer video, but I wanted to stop and give you what God has given me. And, I wanted to get this video in before I went running, because I'm going to go run now. And I thank the Lord each day that he gives me perseverance and endurance to run this race. Because not everyone can get up and go run, or not everyone can get up out of bed right now. And so I thank the Lord that he's still waking me up and getting me up. So I want to use my opportunities to take care of the temple. This is God's temple, and still be able to focus and have an active brain, to be able to think and to learn and retain information, and just to help other people. And even if it's just walking by someone and smiling and speaking to a stranger, it's important. It's important to show love towards one another. It's important that we see the breakdown, and we see, the division. It's important that we see those things, and how can we build bridges and bring one another back together, because we need to refocus. A lot of people have lost focus on the real cause and on what they're fighting for. And we need to just come back into focus. Come back into focus. And so on today, I pray that you all will have a blessed day in the Lord. I pray that you'll get something out of this video. And if you don't need the information, because you already have it down 100%, because I know every time I read this book on John Maxwell, I learn more. And from the day one that I brought this book, I have grown so much. And I brought this book years ago, and I can see the growth in me. And I can see that each time I read this book, I get something else out of it. And God got me where I can actually teach this book, and I can talk about this book, with others and share. And I don't get any monetary from this, because this is somebody else's, but I'm expounding on it with their information and what I've learned and my knowledge, but no monetary. This is because I want to help other people, and I want to be able to give people some information that they can walk away from and they can take with them and say, you know what? I saw a video today and I learned something. Because aren't you, and this is a question I have for everyone that watches my video, aren't you tired of negativism? Aren't you tired of broken relationships and division, and people being unfocused, or focusing on negative instead of the positive, and pointing out people's weaknesses instead of their strengths, pointing out their bad instead of the good? Aren't you tired of that? But what I won't get tired of is love. What I won't get tired of is God's word. What I won't get tired of is being kind and trying to help others. I'm not tired of those things. I'm just getting started. So on today, I pray that you will have a blessed day again in the Lord, and may that you carry love in your heart and reassess and reevaluate and refocus. God bless you all on today. Peace.